that, we've got to stabilize the population. When I was born, there were
so what's wrong with the population? I mean,
with too many people. That's why we have global warming. We have global warming because too many people are using too much stuff. But if there were less people, they'd be using less stuff.
Hi, my name is Pastor Joe Green. I'm the head pastor of Antioch Assembly Church in Harrisburg, Pennsylvania. I'm also the founder of the 2019 movement, a movement of reconciliation and restoration, multicultural, multi-ethnic reconciliation, and the fulfillment of the promises given to Abraham, that all the families of the world will come together and be blessed through the seed of Abraham. So the question I want to answer today is, how could a black pastor support Donald Trump? How could a black pastor support Donald Trump? And I wanted to answer that today. And first of all, I want to tell you that I'm not a pro-Trump guy. I'm an anti-globalist guy. And all Christians should be anti-globalist. So let me explain very quickly what that means. Globalism. Some of you may have heard the term Illuminati. You may hear me use the term the ruling elite or the globalists. These are people that are trying to form a one world government. A one world government. They call it the New World Order. And it's not a new thing that they've been trying to create, but it's something that they've been trying to create for a long time. As a matter of fact, based on the Bible, they've been trying to create it since Genesis 11 at the Tower of Babel. But you have to recognize that the one world government is demonic, is satanic. You know, a lot of people don't read the Bible as thoroughly as they should, and very few people even read the book of Revelation, and how important it is for us to understand what happens at the end of the age, because the enemy is trying to move his agenda forward, and God has given us clues on how not to fall victim to the strategies of the enemy. So again, I want to stress that I'm not necessarily pro-Trump. I'm anti-globalist. I'm anti-New World Order, and I'm going to talk to you about why that correlates with my support of now President Trump. Now, when we talk about the globalists and we talk about the Illuminati is an organization that is behind most of this. And now there's many facets of the Illuminati. So you have the Rothschild World Banks, international bankers. You have organizations like the Council on Foreign Relations, the Bilderberg, the Trilateral Commission. You have Masonic organizations that are a part of this. You have even certain religious organizations. If you get to the highest realms of like the Jesuit order, or even some Roman Catholic fast aspects or facets, whatever you want to say, they all are part of the Illuminati. Now, Masonic organizations are feeder systems for that. Greek letter organizations are feeder systems for that. You have organizations like the Boule, and there's so many different facets of this. And but ultimately, they all channel up to this organization called the Illuminati. Now, the Illuminati, or the illuminated ones, worship the devil. They worship Lucifer. When you get to the high ranks of these organizations, they recognize that they worship Lucifer. And the word Illuminati comes from the illuminated ones. And they believe it was the serpent in the Garden of Eden, who was also Lucifer, who gave them certain secret knowledge. And that secret knowledge helps them to be gods. You know, basically they are gods in their own right. And so because of that, they have an agenda that they're trying to push a one world government, a new world order in which they're in control. But we know ultimately it's the Antichrist, the devil, and the false prophet that's behind that. And the Bible speaks very, very clearly about that. So as a pastor, I understand this because the Bible tells us for us to be able to realize or recognize the agenda of the enemy so that he doesn't take the advantage of us. So if I know that the enemy, Lucifer, Satan, the devil, whatever you want to call him, is trying to form a one world government, then I should look at the signs and be against those things that try to support that. Now, you may say, well, you're just making speculation. I'm not making speculation. They in their writings, and they will acknowledge that they worship Lucifer, and that Lucifer is the one that gives them the secret knowledge. When we talk about the synagogue of Satan, the Bible talks about they are Kabbalists. They practice Kabbalah, which is Jewish mysticism, which is all the same thing. There's certain rites that they have to be a part of, and certain initiations that they have to be a part of. And so I'm going to go in more detail about that in other videos. But at the end of the day, I want you to understand who it is that we are fighting against. And we're supposed to fight against it. That's why the Bible says we wrestle not against flesh and blood, but against principalities, powers, wickedness in high places. That is talking about this organization that I'm mentioning to you, which is the Illuminati, the one world government, the new world order that they are trying to form. Now, and they do acknowledge that they worship Lucifer, who is the light bringer. In Hebrew, that means the light bringer or the light bearer. Now, again, how does this tie into my support of President Trump? Because based on the facts that I'm going to give you, President Trump has expressed an agenda that is anti-globalist or anti-New World Order. I don't believe that he's a part of the Illuminati. I think that he has his own agenda. He wants to push his own agenda, and that's true. But his agenda is against or opposes the globalist agenda, which is why one of the first things that I noticed about him is he started talking about strengthening America and American sovereignty. And as I'm going to show you, trying to weaken the nation and trying to make unsecure borders is a part of the New World Order that the Illuminati is trying to push forward. And so, and let me just say real quick, there's a couple of ways that you become a part of these secret societies or these organizations. First of all, there's 13 families that are a part of the bloodline that they believe are the Illuminati. But outside of those 13 families, so you have like the Rothschilds, you have several other families. In America, you have the Rockefeller family that is a part of the organizations that are part of the Illuminati. But you have these 13 families, and if you're part of that bloodline, you're considered in the Illuminati. Outside of that, they use other organizations and other people to help push their agenda. And in order for them to push their agenda, you have to take an oath. You have to swear an oath. You have to be a part of one of these organizations, one of the many organizations that we talk about. You have to perform certain rituals, and you have to basically take a blood oath in order to go to these high levels and be promoted by these organizations. When you go in Hollywood, when you get to the top levels of Hollywood, if you're not a part of this bloodline, then you have to take an oath and vow your allegiance to the organization. And they have, like I said, sexual rituals. They have sacrifice, child sacrifices, and other types of sacrifices that are done. These things are well documented. It's not something that I'm making up. So I would encourage you to check these things out for yourself. But let's talk about a couple of the globalist agenda. And again, when I talk about globalists, I'm talking about the Illuminati, the New World Order, et cetera, et cetera. So one of the first things that they need to do is to destroy the sovereignty of nations in order to absorb them into larger organizations that will ultimately lead to a one world government. So in North America, you had NAFTA, which is the North American Free Trade Agreement, that was supposed to combine the economies of United States, Canada, and Mexico. Eventually, it was going to destroy the sovereignty of the United States. They would all become one sector or segment. They would divide the world into about 10 segments, and then it would be easier to take those 10 segments and absorb them into a one world government. So when you look at the TPP or NAFTA or any of these type of trade agreements, they were a part of the Illuminati strategy in order to destroy the sovereignty and the economy of the United States in order to absorb it into this one world order. And so when I start to hear President Trump fight against NAFTA and these other trade agreements, and ultimately I'm pretty sure that he actually took the United States off of NAFTA. This is a direct assault against the New World Order. So again, you can say that President Trump isn't a great guy and he's harsh and he's this and that. I'm not vouching for his moral superiority. What I am doing is telling you about the anti-globalist agenda that I've seen he campaigned on, and his organization, his administration has been moving towards. So I've actually seen steps that he's taken that actually violate the strategy or the agenda of the New World Order. So he talks about, when he says make America great again, of course, from racism and all this, we can come with all different types of conclusions of what that means. But at the end of the day, what I've seen him talk about and hear him talk about is strengthening this nation, strengthening this nation. So strengthening this nation actually plays against the New World Order's agenda, especially since the United States has been the strongest economy in the world. A strong America does not play into the strategy for the New World Order. It doesn't. It actually makes it more difficult for them to have a global government or global economy if you have strong individual nations. The UN is an arm of the globalists in order to make a new world order. The United Nations was created in order to help to create a one world government or a new world order. And so when you look at the past presidents, from President Obama to President Bush to President Clinton, they all gave more of the authority over this nation to the United Nations. And so President Trump comes in and he now starts to speak against the United Nations. He's even threatened to pull us out of the United Nations. And he has recently, him and Nikki Haley, Secretary Haley, have actually talked about defunding our support of the United Nations. All of these are strategies that oppose the strategy of the New World Order. And again, the past presidents have all given more of the power. Even I believe it was Secretary of Defense Leon Panetta that actually gave the United Nations a certain level of authority over our military, which all of these things are strategies that play right into the New World Order. Increasing immigration and weakening our borders is one of the strategies of the globalists, because again, if you have a weak United States and the country goes under, it's easy to absorb the United States into the one world governmental system. And so when you think about these strategies of these former presidents that or when you look in mainstream media and they try to act that if you want to build a wall or if you want to strengthen our borders, that somehow or another you are anti-immigrant or anti-Mexican, that is just one of the deceptions of the enemy, because at the end of the day, we have always been a country of immigrants, but the difference is that when people come here, they have to follow the rule of law and come here the right way. And it is very disrespectful for those immigrants who have come here from other nations and they've gone through the process to become an American citizen, and then all of a sudden we allow millions and millions of people to come in without being vetted, without going through the proper process. When we do that, it is one of the strategies of the New World Order to cause chaos, to destroy the nation, and ultimately to lead towards the New World Order. And so we have to understand the strategies of the enemy. We have to get to a place where we are not just sheeple, as it's called, being led to the slaughter, but that we have our eyes awake and we understand what's going on here. You know, it's the boiling frog syndrome. When they boil frogs, they put them in a pot and they turn the water up very slightly, and ultimately by the time the frog realizes that the temperature is rising, they're already being boiled to death. And so that's what's been happening, especially people of color, black people in America. We've been in the pot has been boiling very slowly, and we didn't realize it. Over the last 8 years with the Obama administration, if anything, black people didn't get anything, and actually we are in worse position after the 8 years of the Obama administration. If you look at the inner cities, if you look at the number of homicides in the black community, if you look at the police brutality, all of these things happened under the Obama administration, but yet we, because our eyes are blinded and we've been manipulated, we don't recognize those things. So it's time for us to open up our eyes and understand the strategy of the enemy, because if you think racism in America is bad, if you ever realize the overall strategy and plans for the Illuminati, the New World Order, then it should change how you look at things.
First, we've got population. The world today has 6.8 billion people. That's headed up to about 9 billion. Now, if we do a really great job on new vaccines, healthcare, reproductive health services, we could lower that by perhaps 10 or 15%.
Socialism and socialized medicine is one of the strategies of the New World Order. Socialism is an economic arm that leads to communism, which is an economic and governmental arm, which is actually a tool of the Illuminati. If you understand Karl Marx, and if you understand the people that actually helped to push communism and socialism in Europe, they were all part of the Illuminati. They were all part of these secret organizations, and it was a strategy that they used for a new world order, one world governmental system. So any type of policy or any type of legislation that's passed that moves us towards socialism ultimately will lead to us being absorbed by the New World Order. Socialized medicine is one of the things that they used in Nazi Germany in order to have a state takeover to get the people dependent upon the government, and ultimately it led to a totalitarian governmental system. That's what that leads to. And so when I hear President Trump fighting against Obamacare, and a lot of people, we're easily manipulated because of the narrative that the enemy uses, like everybody deserves health care. I'm not against that, but I'm against the strategies of socialism and communism that will ultimately lead to the destruction of the country, the liquidation of our economic system, and ultimately will lead to the dissolution of the American government. And so they knew, the communists, who actually had psychologists and social engineers, if you will, that studied the human intellect and the human mindset. They understood how to use propaganda, and they understood how to get people to depend on the government. And that's what I see very clearly if you read some of the books, the Communist Manifesto, and some of these other strategies that have been expressed by the Illuminati. When you read their actual writings and what they believe, it's a very clear indicator that we have been moving in that direction as a nation. And most of the strategies that they have expressed through many decades ago, President Trump has spoken out directly against. And so
I've been called on that a couple of times too. You're not going to support me, even though you know I'm the best thing that could ever happen to Israel, and I'll be that. And I know why you're not going to support me, and you know you're not going to support me because I don't want your money. You don't want to give me money, okay? But that's okay. You want to control your own politician. That's fine. Good. But I will think about that, folks.
I'm here to tell you that I know for sure that he understands the significance of what he's saying, but I do know that these are very specific targets against the New World Order that he has talked about. His policies and what his administration has been pushing so far is all anti-globalist. And so that's, again, I'm anti-New World Order. And so anything that's against them, I have to support.
Rothschild. Donald Trump is threatening to destroy the New World Order. Says president's nationalism will destroy globalism forever. The Rothschilds have used their globalist media mouthpiece to declare that Donald Trump is threatening to destroy the New World Order for good. Globalism propaganda tool and Rothschild family-owned publication, The Economist, has branded the U.S. president a present danger to the New World Order and stated that the internationalists that formed it are spinning in the graves.
To a certain extent. Another point is eugenics. Eugenics is a philosophy and a strategy employed by the Illuminati to decrease the world population, but especially black people. It's called eugenics. It's called ethnic cleansing. The Nazis, again, were proponents of that. The Nazis were financed and employed by the Rockefeller banking cartel, which is a part of the Illuminati. And there was a lady by the name of Margaret Sanger who was also funded by the Rockefellers because she was a eugenicist. And eugenics, you know, the word genes, eugenics means good genes.
I'm Margaret Sanger.
Margaret Sanger is the founder of Planned Parenthood.
Hello.
In the mid-1920s, Margaret Sanger spoke to a group that came to hear her in full regalia.
Eugenics means the release and cultivation of the better racial elements in our society, and the gradual suppression, elimination, and eventual extirpation of defective stocks, those human weeds which threaten the blooming of the finest flowers of American civilization. The most merciful thing that a large family does to one of its infant members is to kill it.
By Sanger's time, techniques of racial elimination like lynching had become taboo within the Democratic Party. And so Sanger pioneered a different approach to bring about a similar result.
How would you describe Margaret Sanger's so-called Negro Project?
The Negro Project was to bring these birth control and other eugenic measures into the black community. She hired black ministers expressly to sell the idea.
We don't want word to go out that we want to exterminate the Negro population. And the minister is the man who can straighten out that idea if it ever occurs to any of their more rebellious members.
It means ethnic cleansing. It means to get rid of what she called to be human weeds, and to help to support the procreation of the more valuable people of society. And that's what she wrote in her book. It was called The Negro Dilemma, or The Pivot of Civilization. She wrote a book entitled that, where she expressed her eugenic philosophies. When I look at the Democratic Party, and especially the liberals, because Margaret Sanger was the founder of Planned Parenthood, and the abortion industry and eugenics was actually pushed and funded in order to reduce the population of certain groups of people. And that's called social Darwinism. And I have other videos where I've gone into that, but I want you to understand that that was targeting people of color. They have written about it. It was very clear that that was part of the Illuminati strategy, because they believe that the population of the world should be about 500 million people. And of course, the only people that should be within that 500 million are those who they believe have been illuminated, whether it's part of the family bloodline, or if it's people that are being used by them to help support their agenda. But that is eugenics. Margaret Sanger, of course, like I said, the founder of Planned Parenthood, was a eugenicist that was funded by the Illuminati. President Trump ran on a pro-life platform and even threatened to defund Planned Parenthood. He was exposing Planned Parenthood and wanted to defund them. Ben Carson made a speech about Margaret Sanger during the political campaign, and there was some other people like Saul Alinsky, who wrote the book Rules for Radicals, who actually gives praise to Lucifer in his book. And the liberals and the Democrats are very much intertwined in the teaching and the strategies of Saul Alinsky. If you understand that the eugenics movement, which again is one of the strategies of the Illuminati, has been extremely successful in reducing the population of many people, but especially black people. So let me give you some quick numbers. Just since 1973, approximately 50 million black babies have been aborted either directly or indirectly through the abortion industry, through Planned Parenthood and the abortion industry. Now, this is part of their strategy, and it has worked effectively. The reason I say directly or indirectly, it has been estimated that approximately 20 million black births have ended in an abortion since 1973. This is based on the Guttmacher Institute and some of the other people that actually track these things. So 20 million directly, and the birth rate in the black community is 1.88 per person. So if you multiply 20 times 1.88, that gives you another approximately 38 million. That's actually 58 million babies that have been aborted directly or indirectly. This is black babies only, directly or indirectly through Planned Parenthood. So the Illuminati strategy for depopulation is working, and it has really been focused on the people of color, which again, being a black pastor, I'm pro-life because I understand that God is pro-life. And so I stand with people who support those principles, and I stand against people who don't. And the fifth point I want to make is the deep state, which is a tool of the Illuminati here in the United States, is engaging in an all-out war against President Trump. The Federal Reserve is the financial power structure of the Illuminati here in the United States. I heard President Trump during the campaign say we want to audit the Federal Reserve, and he started to talk about the Federal Reserve. I heard him during the presidential campaign stand before a group of people that were part of these organizations, these Illuminati globalist organizations, and I heard him say, I'm not going to take your money, because if I take your money, then I have to do what you told me to do, and I'm not going to do what you tell me to do. So at the end of the day, you may like him or dislike him as an individual. You may not like his approach to how he does things. But what I'm here to do, what I'm here to say as a black pastor, is we have to be the prophetic voice that looks at the principles and the strategies of the devil, the enemy, Satan, Lucifer, whatever you want to call him. And we have to awaken people not to fall victim to that. Because we as the church are supposed to be the light and the salt. We're supposed to be the forerunners of the world to actually declare what the word of God says in the earth. And we are to fight fight for those things and those principles and those values that God fights for. And so again, whenever you pick a political leader, whenever you stand with somebody, we understand that there are people that have all kinds of different human failings. We don't vote or support or promote anybody or anything based on their moral perfection. The only moral perfection that we acknowledge is that of Jesus Christ. And we understand that he's the King of Kings, and we are called to be his authority structure, his power structure here on the earth. And we are to fight against the one world government that the Antichrist is trying to promote. The devil is trying to promote it. All the principles and all the strategies that he tries to promote, we are to bring awareness to so that we have victory over these things. And so this has been Pastor Joe Green. I thank you for subscribing to my YouTube or my Patreon. We ask you to be consider supporting the message of the 2019 movement and the other things that we're doing. And we believe that this is very effective. But at the end of the day, worst case scenario, please subscribe and share the videos that we produce so that more people can have their eyes open to the strategies and the devices of the enemy. I love you. Be blessed. Shalom, shalom in Jesus' name.